Hey friends, we've got some new questions. Let's get stuck in. Question number 1, it says, is from you, producer Ali.
So this is a question from Greg. What's one of the best closing questions you've ever been asked?
Probably made myself sound unpopular with this, but I'm not a massive fan of focusing on the closing question. Don't get me wrong. Of course, in sales, we're outcome driven, whether it's, we're trying to get that next meeting, whether we're trying to get the deal itself, and it's important that we do close for the next step that we want. So don't get me wrong about that. But the way I'll kind of phrase this is that I would rather have a great meeting where I've, got to understand that customer's business, their goals, their challenges, what they're trying to achieve, the pain they have, the other stakeholders involved. I'd rather have a great meeting where you say to me, you can have that great meeting, but you can't ask any closing questions, than have an average meeting and you give me this hand-wrapped world's greatest closing questions. I think that the impact of how good the answer to the question will be is nothing to do with the question itself. It's about how much trust, credibility, value you found in the meeting. So with all of those things in mind, it's not really so much, the question doesn't have to be that clever. It just has to have the anchor of value that we can point back to, where throughout that meeting, I've been trying to understand the customer's business, been trying to understand what they're trying to achieve, or, is it maybe, if it's a true closing question throughout the cycle, I've been doing all those things. By the time I get to asking for the order or closing the meeting, everything should be beautifully lined up anyway. And so it's just a case of just asking, based on everything we've seen, everything, we've done so far, shall we move to the next steps? Or however you ask that. And this is another point, I'm going to sound like I'm doing a double rant now. I'm also a big fan of salespeople being credible, being themselves, using their own voice, using their own style. So what sounds right for me won't sound right for probably anyone else. It's all about the setup. It's all about being curious, great discovery, value-driven throughout. And then, it won't matter how sharp or succinct or, where you've got your closing question from, as long as you've done the work beforehand. Question number 2, it says, Andy to play a video from Lisa.
Hi Andy, I'd love to know, what is one of your non-negotiables that you have to do every single day, no matter what?
Non-negotiables every day. I'll flip this a little bit because I'm not consistent enough to say I do stuff every single day that I know I should do. But what I will say is, when I plan my day, when I make a conscious, proactive effort to sit down either the night before or the morning of and think, right, what have I got ahead today? What time do I need to prepare for myself? What things do I need to have to be the best version of myself? As much as I wish it was a non-negotiable that I could be more disciplined with myself, but whenever I do that, I always seem to have a great day. I'll go with that, but it probably seems a bit of a cop-out. Question number 3 says, is a voice note from producer Nick.
Hey Andy, we've had a great question through from Ronald on LinkedIn, and this is what he put forward. So he says, I spoke with a sales leader from a well-known SaaS company who shared an interesting perspective. They see experience at a playbook company, one that has formally adopted MEDDPICC, as more valuable than certification alone. Their view is that immersion in a fully MEDDPICC-driven environment gives candidates more of an edge. Have you come across this sentiment, and how do you see the distinction in terms of sales effectiveness?
First and foremost, there's tough argument against the idea of being immersed in an environment not being better than just learning about the environment. So I think that's obvious. But I will say this, MEDDIC is equal, and particularly around what get classed as playbook companies, they tend to use MEDDIC in a very narrow manner. It's very much about qualification. It's very much about, aligning to the deal and then reflecting backwards, reacting to where they are in the deal. It's not that they don't do all the things that are important. They're a playbook company. They're typically at the very, very top end of our industry in things like sales execution. So it's certainly no criticism of them, but they're just using MEDDIC for a very small function. So the whole experience of being in that company would make you wholly a better salesperson. The MEDDIC side of things is typically pretty narrow. It'll be very good. They'll use it very well in that narrow function. But when it starts doing things like using it for discovery, using it for building value, uncovering pain, implicating pain, really building stakeholders, all of the methods that we build within the way that we do MEDDPICC, they don't do those. So yes, if you were a playbook person, you never worked with us and you were looking at how you do it, I can see why someone would have given you that opinion, but not all MEDDIC is equal, so I'll leave it at that. Okay, question number 4 is a voice note, but it doesn't say who it's from.
Hey Andy, it's your favourite walkies here. Yes, it's Jessie. I have a question for you that I'm hoping you have the best answer for. What's the most common mistake you see teams make when trying to implement MEDDPICC across the full go-to-market organisation? And how can they fix it before it stalls adoption?
You know what? I mean, this is going to sound so contrived, honestly, but the organizations we've been working with where they've been implementing MEDDPICC across the whole go-to-market team, I don't see it stalling. It's actually like has like a force multiplier effect to the impact. The reasons why we normally would see an implementation stall is because there's other competing initiatives or the wider go-to-market team isn't in support. And so when we do things like how we build value into what we call M1s, the marketing team isn't on board with that, or they haven't been brought on board, the same as other go-to-market roles like SEs, perhaps not being understanding of how they can play a part in the implementation and the delivery of value selling via MEDDPICC. Same thing with SDRs, you know, they're qualifying in BANT and then they're passing a different language through the sales. These are all things that create friction and actually to how the voice note comes across, stall things. Where we've seen the whole go-to-market team be involved, everybody's not just helping, but they're bought in because they see the value of having a common language across the whole go-to-market team brings to them. So I really would love to sit here and say where we've seen problems with it, but I just can't. The only way I could probably add value here is saying that something that's imperative for this, particularly the more teams are involved, the more departments involved, more people involved, the more important it has executive buy-in. We're fortunate enough to have had that with every one of our customers where we've really been implementing across the whole go-to-market team, where we've had CEO buy-in, and even, you know, in a couple of cases, PE and VC backed, and the venture capitalists and private equity folk have been involved as well. They've almost been the drivers of it. So it comes right from the very top throughout. But that would be something that we haven't seen it yet, and touch wood, it doesn't happen anytime soon. But that would be the thing, is having the executive support throughout. That's it for this episode. Thank you, as always, for your time, your attention, and those who ask questions, your questions as well. If you would like your question answered, you can write it in the comments below or send me a DM on LinkedIn. I will look forward to hearing from you. Until the next time, my friends, may your champions be strong. See ya.